Welcome to Rowdy and Real with me, Sophie, therapist, well-being coach and slight loose cannon. I'll be sharing some life lessons and wisdom from the real world. If nothing else, it'll take your mind off your problems for a bit. And if we're really lucky, you might even hear something that helps you to make it better. So stick around for real talk, real growth, and some probable bad language. Let's dive in, shall we? Hi, gorgeous. Welcome to another episode. And yeah, let's just get straight into it because this is an episode that I feel I can't really avoid making. There is undoubtedly some scary shit going on in the world and you can't ignore it. And actually, I don't think you should try and completely ignore it. And don't worry, I just want to be really, really clear. I am not going to get into specifics today. I'm not going to be talking about any specific news story or situation because we need to have a non-triggering space to talk about this stuff, when we're not sort of propelled into taking a position or getting overwhelmed with fear. So this is it. This is the safe space that we're going to talk about it in. And to be perfectly honest with you, I often go too far the other way in that I will absolutely refuse to even say the name of the person that triggers me. And here's the thing. As I'm saying that, I bet you know who I'm talking about. So the point is, you're already thinking about it. It's an overcorrection to absolutely refuse to look at it or to say the names or to acknowledge that it exists because, the energy required to avoid these topics is almost the same amount of energy as if you were actually talking about them. It's just all effort and energy and attention. And you probably know that all attention feeds the situation, whether it's positive attention or it's negative attention. In other words, you feed the situation as much by cheering for it as you do by shouting at it, and as much as you do by gritting your teeth and desperately trying to ignore it. So, since we're here, let's talk about it. Believe it or not, the world is getting better. I know that sounds unbelievable, but the world is getting better year on year. We are healthier, we live longer, we have far fewer of us are living in poverty. Many more children are surviving infancy. There are so many global metrics that I could list, and most of them show a long-term trend of improvement in multiple areas. And yet, many of us still can't help feeling like the world is on fire. Why is that? Well, for one thing, we live in an age of 24-hour news. Crises aren't just reported, on the 6 o'clock news and then the 10 o'clock news or whenever it is. They're reported constantly across multiple news media channels. And we are simply not meant to be that informed and that constantly updated. And the same is true of social media. That's also across multiple channels. And it's just a constant stream of content. And because it is algorithmically driven, most of it is controversial, much of it is total disinformation, and now some of it is completely fake. And to be honest, there's no real way to tell which is which. And it is, let me repeat this, it's algorithmically driven. We are pitted against each other in order to drive engagement. And so we get left in absolute horror that another human being could possibly believe the things that they believe. How could that possibly happen? Look up, the wonderful Jamila Jamil has spoken about this so eloquently. Please look up what she has to say about it, about the way in which algorithms are serving us information, and we all think that we're looking at the same information, and then somebody else is having a completely opposite reaction to that same information, and that's horrifying to us. And yet we, she explains, we are not looking at the same information at all. And so we are dehumanizing one another, and that is being driven by algorithms. And it's bewildering, it's stressful, and it is deeply divisive, and it's meant to be. You are meant to feel powerless. You are meant to blame other people for this. rather than directing your blame where it belongs at mega corporations and at governments. So, before we get too mired in that conversation, which is another big conversation to have, I just want you to understand the absolute futility of trying to change somebody else's fixed opinions by berating them or arguing with them online. So, short of feeling completely overwhelmed and completely powerless, but still wanting to do something, what do we actually do? How do we remain even remotely hopeful in these fucking weird times? Well, let me give you some guidance. Let's pause for a second. If this is landing for you, make sure you hit subscribe or follow, because it means you'll always have a little dose of real talk waiting for you when you need it most. I believe, and I'm hoping that if you're in my audience that you'll sort of largely agree with me, I believe that right now it is our responsibility to be incredibly mindful of where our head is at. In fact, now more than ever, doing our level best to have an extra focus on kindness. And I think it's more important now than ever to work on ourselves so that we maintain the highest possible vibration of thought that we can. And that is very much easier said than done. The first thing that we need to accept, and this is a tough one, is that everyone is doing their best. And yes, I do mean everyone. Everyone is doing what they think is the best thing to do, given everything that they have been taught to believe. And that includes you, because all beliefs are taught. Now, and that is a huge if you want to engage in tough and challenging conversations with others, I'd love you to try and approach them with curiosity. And as much as you can, as difficult as it is, to try and avoid cynicism. It is very easy, especially at the moment, to become jaded and cynical. Instead, do your best to keep your mind open. And know that when you're doing that, when you're keeping your mind open, that is a positive act of rebellion. So you can ask yourself, if you're going to have these conversations, you can ask yourself, how did they arrive at these conclusions? And have that be a genuine question. What leads them to feel this way? How did they get there? How did they get to that belief? And most importantly, what needs are being met by these beliefs? Now, the cynical response is, oh, well, they just want to put other people down, or they want to make money, or they want more power. And there may be absolute truth in that. But what is the need underneath that need? And it might surprise you to learn that the same needs that are driving you, like belonging, like safety, like peace, are the same needs that are driving them, even if the methods that they use to attain it are wildly different from yours. And yes, of course, some of those methods are terrible, immoral, awful. So what is the point in trying to adopt that point of view? The point is that it encourages you to remember that these are your fellow human beings. They are simply seeing different information than you. They believe different things to you. Now, I understand if this feels completely overwhelming to even contemplate. That isn't surprising. So if that feels like just an absolute bridge too far, totally fine. Instead, you might choose to disengage and switch off news and social media. And not only is that totally valid, in fact, that's something I often recommend. And that alone triggers some people because they'll say, well, you have to keep informed. It's not possible, I think, to walk through the modern world and not know what's going on. You're just going to hear it from somewhere. So switching off news and social media and choosing to unplug and disengage is not willful ignorance. It's a very deliberate, conscious choice to maintain your health and balance. And that is incredibly important too. And it's not just about sticking your head in the sand and focusing on self-preservation. Don't be fooled into thinking that that is a selfish act. It's not. Because keeping yourself well and healthy is also a positive act of rebellion. It's important work. What good can you do if you're absolutely crushed? Let me put it to you this way. As you know, I've been dealing with cancer for about a year. So my bandwidth for this stuff, which was already pretty narrow to begin with, because, I'm a single mom going through menopause and trying to run a business. That bandwidth, which was narrow, is now paper thin. And maybe you're in a similar situation. Maybe you're dealing with health issues of your own, not just physical health, but mental health. Maybe you're caring for an elderly parent. Maybe you're dealing with grief. Maybe you're going through a divorce, or you're trying to get out of a toxic relationship. And maybe you're just dealing with life. All of it requires enormous amounts of energy. And yet, I absolutely know, I guarantee, that some of you that are listening to this now are mired in guilt or just feeling completely overwhelmed because you believe that you should be doing more, even though your bandwidth may also be really, really narrow. You simply do not have the capacity right now to be an activist, and that is okay. So perhaps you just do what you can do, even if that seems really small, even if it seems almost insignificant. I can't go on a march, for example, but I can do this. I can speak to what I believe is important. And yes, I absolutely am very mindful of my privilege in that I can talk to you about this without fear from the safety of my warm home. I am extremely lucky and privileged. I believe that if we truly want this world to heal, it's not going to be through conflict, and it's not going to be through avoidance either. It will be through love. It will be through letting go of resentment and doing our best to try and understand our fellow human beings. In other words, it's going to mean consciously choosing to not join in with that vibration of conflict and hatred. And that doesn't mean becoming a doormat either. It just means becoming somebody whose boundaries are forged with love, not anger. Oh, now look, I know it's sort of easy to say all of this and incredibly hard to do, and we will fail a lot. I fail daily. That's okay. We just keep trying. So, if you have a very reduced capacity, perhaps you can engage in conversations with curiosity rather than cynicism. And if that's too much, maybe you can just make a promise to try and see other people as just humans with different opinions. Maybe you can donate, and if that's too far out of reach, maybe you can sign petitions. Or maybe you just dedicate yourself to looking after yourself or your family. And listen, whatever you do or you don't do, now more than ever is the time to focus on love. And that means love of yourself and of other people. It's vitally important anchoring work, and it's desperately needed. And I know that in itself is hugely challenging at times like these. But we know for a fact that love heals. And I'm not talking about adulation. I'm talking about love. And love is big, messy work. Don't kid yourself. I'm not trying to toss around trite platitudes here. It's hard. It's messy. And it requires you to be bigger than you ever thought you possibly could be. And it will change the world. So basically, my loves, what I'm trying to say to you is that it is more important now than ever that you stay loving and stay open. Let's face it, there is still so much to be joyful about and so much to be grateful for. And that's really where our energy and our attention needs to go. Into appreciating all the good that still exists, that is thriving. All the helpers, all the healers, all the hopers, all the creatives, all the carers, and all those who are committed to bringing more joy and more light into the world. Follow them. Join them. Be a rebel for hope. Together we can do this. All right, I'm sending you big love until next time. Ta-ra! Thanks for listening to Rowdy and Real with me, Sophie Shaw. If you'd like to stay in touch, then please visit norwichtherapy.co.uk and join the mailing list to receive a gorgeous free meditation straight into your inbox. And if you'd like to chat with me about your stuff, then please book yourself a free 30-minute call at sophieshaw.as.me/free call, and we'll start making a plan for your happiness. This podcast is intended for educational and vaguely entertaining purposes and is not a replacement for counselling, psychotherapy or coaching. Please take responsibility for your mental health and ask for the help you need. You're fabulous and you deserve to be happy. Bye!